Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to our bonus clip from our Rap Pod recording, where our panel looked back over Leinster v Scarlets. If you missed it, it's on Apple, Spotify, and all the other usual places. Now, following Leinster's infamous defeat to Northampton, there has been much discussion about leadership on the field. Losing a captain like Coleman Rich to injury would challenge any team, and the confusion over a late penalty against the Saints has raised concerns about its impact on performances. Now, we debated this in our Harpin on Rugby WhatsApp group, so I wanted to bring it here to the pod. Tom, do you think leadership is an issue? And if so, how should Leinster address it?
Uh, Personally, no, I don't think the leadership is an issue. If anyone wants to listen to the pod on Spotify, we spoke about the sort of mix up in game plan at the moment, and I think that's where the hesitancy is at the moment with Leinster. We mentioned falling between two stools about their kicking game and when to kick and when they go away from kicking and what that brings and what that doesn't bring. Um, it's easy to look at the microcosm of that. Should have we gone for three against Northampton, and that sort of whole huddle of players and not sure what to do, and Jack Conan glancing up at the coaching bench to see, But I think it'd be very hard to pin a whole season or pin Jack Conan's abilities as captain or not on that. Anyone that's been looking at Leinster for years, and we often see Leinster when they concede a try. Jack Conan is one of the first guys to bring the guys in behind the post for a huddle. So he's a well respected senior player, and a lot of the players think a lot of him. So I don't necessarily think Jack Conan's stepping in as captain is any sort of an issue. As I said, I'm harping back to just a little bit of confusion about Leinster's game plan and kicking and not kicking, and what that brings and what it doesn't bring. And that's where the confusion and the jagged sort of clunkiness that's in our play is coming from, rather than anything specific with Conan. We did speak offline, as you said. Some of us were looking for a bit more dog in a captain, as in just Leinster seemed a little bit lackluster at the moment. But I think that might be down to tactical. We're not seem to be fighting aggressively in the ruck anymore. And you look at James Ryan as somebody who leads from the front there. I know he's had his issues with dealing with referees, but for me, dealing with referees is a small part of being a captain. And sometimes it's overblown. The amount of times a captain has to speak to a referee in a game might be a couple of times, and a lot of people focus in on that because it's visible, it's on camera, and it's there to be seen how that conversation is going, whether it's be Johnny Sexton or or Peter O'Mahony's scowl, or do you know what I mean? A lot of focus goes on that, and maybe too much emphasis put on it. Dan Sheehan is another person that's could be earmarked as a captain. But I think we've moved from Caelan, who's unfortunately injured, to Conan, and we got to see it out with Jack at captain. I'd like to see more decisiveness from the coaching bench rather than look at what's perceived as a lack of decisiveness on the pitch in very few occasions. I think it's tactical rather than a captaincy issue at the moment. So yeah, I'd back Jack for the rest of the season. We've only one, maybe two games left. That's it. And I'd leave Conan and see it out from here.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this us having this conversation is in no way focused on Jack Conan
Mm.
himself. It's this is an issue that's going way back to when Johnny Sexton retired, and we dealt with it by giving co-captains. It just never worked, and that brought us through Christmas and into the new year. And then finally they went, instead of the two of them, they went to someone different. They went to Kyle Doris. He took it with both hands. He's since gone on to be Ireland captain. Probably would have been Lions captain as well if things went differently for him. But now he's unavailable now for Leinster, and it's a question of what you do next. And just in Leinster, we're just very lucky to have not only someone who can step in on a leadership role, but it's the exact same position. He's also a Lion. We're very lucky to have that. Jack, like you say, he does get people behind the posts and stuff. I suppose he's more of a leader by example type of player. He focuses on his own game and he does his thing and he does his carries and stuff. And I think he kind of prefers to be doing that. Someone mentioned Dan Sheehan as well. I think if we're going to talk about the leadership group, I'd say maybe we can move a few things around. come up with a leadership group that brings us through the season. For Leinster, you need a few the leaders who are going to be in the test team, but you also need someone for when they're away as well. So maybe you need to look at that. But I think it's maybe for after the season is over, because we're so close to the end. But it's definitely worth discussing. What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, I'm fully in agreement with what Tom said. This isn't a question of individuals. It isn't a question of who's the captain, who's a bad captain, who's a good captain. The analogy I would draw is, this is a battlefield. You're the general. You have 3 units of soldiers, each of which has its own captains, lieutenants and what have you. But if you don't give them a clear battle plan, then however good they are at leadership, however good they are at tactics, if the strategy is flawed and there is confusion about the strategy, and Tom spoke in the pod about this being caught between 2 different game plans, then there's no clarity for the captain either, irrespective of whether it's Jack, and I think Jack is a good captain, or it's Kalen, or it's any captain would have suffered, in inverted commas, because there is no clarity from the people who should be giving them the clarity. And this is more an indictment on the coaching than on the captain who's on the field. In my view, that is the problem. Not the captain, the coaches.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just a question of the captain as well. I mean, you need leadership throughout the 15 that's on the pitch, and like for the captain, it's more the extra thing, the dealing with the referee, and the being able to handle the post match interview, and some people are better suited to that. Some people are better suited to just getting on. But for Leinster at the moment, it's something we're missing. It's the broader. Just general leadership throughout the 15. You can see it. You see it when it's not there, if you know what I mean. So it's just something that's.
I don't see that there's a lack of leadership at all. It's just that they're confused. They're confused. There's leaders across the whole. That they're very, very experienced players. There are very good leaders, very good communicators throughout the team. Both.
So maybe the leadership is kind of needed off the pitch, because I mean, if we can see it. If we can see that the game plan is kind of disjointed, then maybe they should be showing leadership and speaking up off the pitch, saying like, "What the hell do you want us to do?" kind of thing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but we're not there. They may be doing that.
Yeah,
they may be doing that. Out of sight and out. But we don't see that. We don't get to see that.
No.
And what are these conversations that are being had in behind closed doors? It just smacks of a lack of clarity, which leads to indecisiveness, which leads to looking up to the stands. Tell me what to do.
Yeah,
you can't have that.
Literally.
I think one of our friends of the pod here, Mark Jackson, made a fair point about Jameson Gibson Park being possible likely candidate even next year if Caelan is out for a little bit, because we spoke in the pod about how effective Leinster are when they play at tempo, and he is the tempo of the team. So if you want to give the permission to a guy that when we're going to go quick, or when are we going to go hard at the breakdown, or when are we going to go quick ball, if he's able to call the shots and have the armband to go back up with it, I think, and he's quiet, he goes about his business and he leads about the front. He's a fair shout. He's a very senior player at this stage. And we know when Leinster are playing really, really well, Gibson Park is so key to it. I'm not, as we said, we're not advocating getting rid of Jack. Jack should stay there from the end of the season. Yeah. And I think we sort of agree, and that it's an issue of game plan rather than just specific individuals at the moment, just since the Northampton game. But look, it's easy to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think we've only 3 defeats all season. We're speaking from a very, we just, as we mentioned in the pod, we just want Leinster to get the job done this year. And with all due respects to Glasgow, and first and foremost, and then hopefully we get to the final against one of the South African teams. It's just all about the result at this stage. So we're as desperate as anybody to just look at every little possible angle to make it work this year, and hence we were just having a chat on that.
Yep, that's it. I mean, just like you say, we're at this stage of the season where there's just one or two games left. I really don't think there's any need changing it. But we're talking about what we're seeing on the pitch, and you know what we want to see going forward. Well, listen, as ever, if you have anything to say about whatever we're hopping on, or indeed if you'd like us to feature something else on future pods, do let us know by way of comments. And while you're at it, sure, there's no harm doing a bit of a liking, sharing, and subscribing as well. Well, thanks for tuning into our latest video. Keep an eye out for our next 80 plus column on our Substack account this Wednesday.